Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of Liberty Pub live from New York. We started this Liberty Pub during the lockdowns online because I was really missing people. Matt was actually pretty happy not seeing anyone because he was just hanging out with the cats.
Me and my cats were reading Rothbard like is the coolest thing.
So that was a pretty quick segue into mentioning a dead economist.
By the way, every time I quote a dead economist during one of these events, you have to drink. So cheers.
So we did these for a while during the lockdowns, and then when the world opened up, finally, we stopped because everybody had more important things to do. But then I realized that I missed people. Again, Matt, not so much. He was still happy. So we missed you all. I hope you guys missed us. We're happy to have some of you here in person in New York in this very cool bar, and also very happy to have people online watching us. This is the first time that we've attempted something like this, so it's going to be partially planned, part spontaneous order, and part beautiful chaos. So we're going to see just how this goes.
Beautiful chaos all the way down. And, you know, I'm joking about this because I'm the libertarian that was perfectly happy not engaging other human beings as happens sometimes. But we wanted a place, particularly early in the lockdown, few remember how it felt dangerous to express certain opinions, the ability to question lockdowns or vaccine mandates, or the radical idea that you should be free to leave your house. Remember those days? And so we had this sort of free speech speakeasy idea where we were going to hang out together and talk about these things. And we eventually made those events private. Like originally we streamed them on Facebook and YouTube. And we ultimately decided to make them private because we didn't want to like say, are we allowed to say this? Or were they going to pull us down from Facebook or YouTube? So we did that. But now things are a little bit different, and maybe we feel a little bit safer doing this. And from my own perspective, any time that I can professionally do the two things that I love, talk about liberty and drink a fine bourbon whiskey, I'm checking all the boxes. And I feel like I should quote a dead economist here, but as Mises said, whiskey is freedom.
So those of you that are here in the room, you're pretty familiar with what we do at Free the People. We specialize in video storytelling. We like to reach the liberty curious with stories about freedom and liberty. We don't preach. I never quote dead economists because I don't think most people listen. Matt does. But one of the projects that we've done this year that we're really proud of is a documentary called The Free Life, Portrait of an Artist. And it's the story of this amazing artist named Carlos Luna, who's based in Miami. And it tells the story of how he fled Cuba. When he was 13 years old, his grandmother said, "You have to leave if you want to practice your art." When he was in high school, one of his teachers told him, "Be careful, you're on the edge. People are watching." So we tell this beautiful story of Carlos to reach people outside of our bubble, to reach people that think that communism and socialism are cool, and remind them why people left. So we've been telling a lot of stories, and we recognize that that is very important to reach people, but we realized that we were missing something, that we needed comedy, and we needed someone funny, and we needed to tell jokes. This is where you jump in, Matt.
Have you guys been paying attention to the Twitter files? I'm obsessed about this. So you may have heard that this wealthy guy named Elon Musk bought Twitter, and he's been releasing all of these internal documents that confirmed all the things that a lot of us knew for a long time. We've been struggling with how to not just create beautiful stories and tell them to people, but how do we reach our audience? And we noticed, as probably a lot of you have, that it's becoming more and more difficult to find that. And we had some suspicions that there was this collusion between big government and big business, but now we know explicitly that the FBI literally had an army of agents reading your tweets to determine whether or not what you were tweeting even if it was a joke, was acceptable. And that sounds un-American to me. And I think we're in this wildly disruptive phase where every time that the message of liberty and the story of the beautiful things that happen when people are free to cooperate and create, every time we break through, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. They try to stop us again. And every time they try to stop us, we innovate. So we're trying to do film festivals. We're trying to experiment with other things. But one of the things we realized was that not everybody cares about the dead Austrian economist that I quote all the time. Sorry, Gene. I know you care. I know you care. So, like, what might matter to people? And Terry already talked about beautiful stories, but I have this wild theory that comedians are going to save us from ourselves because they're the only people willing to stick their necks out and say things that are uncomfortably true. And it's kind of weird to think that Joe Rogan and Bill Maher and Dave Chappelle and Lou Perez might save us. And I know he doesn't want that burden because he's struggling to save himself. But, you know, somebody's got to do it.
There in the corner looking very, very uncomfortable.
Was that an introduction to Lou?
No. Well, it's a little introduction. So last week we had our staff in for our annual staff retreat and meeting, and we were talking about the challenges that we face this year with getting our messaging out. Our audience is growing. The people that follow us is growing, but the number of people that are watching our films is going down or staying stagnant, and it's really, really frustrating. So we spent a whole day strategizing over how to fix this. We actually had met with someone from YouTube. He has some suggestions, and one of our team members, Sam, who's not here anymore, said, or not here tonight, he's, sorry.
He's not dead yet.
No, Sam, if you are not fired, I promise.
He's literally 29.
Although
so
you thought about it after I repeat what he said that night. So he says, we have a lot of really good content. We tell really good stories. We have the Kibbe on Liberty podcast. But, we really need somebody that's really funny and really interesting. And I'm sorry, Matt, that's just not you. And that's pretty much a direct quote.
Sam, if you're watching this, you're fired.
So we're really, really happy, even before Sam told us that we needed somebody more interesting than my husband here, that we had been in talks with Lou, and Lou is going to be doing a project with us that we'll talk about later tonight. But we're so happy to have Lou here. He's going to do some stand-up comedy, and feel free to laugh, heckle, boo, whatever you feel is appropriate. And we're going to also be watching the YouTube chats to see the reaction online.
Comedians love dead silence, so if that's how you feel. The one and only Lou Perez.
I had no idea any of this was happening tonight. This is so much pressure you just put on me. It's like yeah, we have this we're doing this documentary about this Cuban exile who does amazing art and just transcends everything, and then we got a guy with a Spanish last name who we want to do comedy for you. So somewhere in there we are going to make this happen. I am honored. Thank you so much. I thought this was a meeting of libertarians to talk about how monkeypox isn't real. I thought we were all getting together for that reason. No more monkeypox lockdowns, right? Enough of it.
That meeting's after this one.
That's it. Everybody needs to remove their clothes to make sure everybody's not bugged for that very special meeting. I guess you have to ask, is anybody here a Fed? No? Okay. Yeah, we got one guy in the back. It would be the easiest gig to be a Fed here because you're like, yeah, we're already recording this. So it's right there. It's very cool to be here. It's weird to have the Kibbes behind me right now. I have no idea what you're doing. I haven't been in the city in a while, and this is my first time coming down in a while. And I took the subway here, And I got to tell you, man, like the vibe of the city has just changed considerably. Like I was on the subway car and I'm looking around and everybody just has like their nose in their phone. Just everybody's just looking at their phone. Not one person was watching me masturbate. Yeah, and I'm trying to make eye contact. We have the holidays coming up. It's the first day of Hanukkah. You know, nobody is interested. Nobody. It's like, what happened to that New York spirit? What happened? I moved out of New York not too long ago, and a big reason why was because my apartment was haunted. It was straight up haunted, and it was a little awkward because it was haunted by black ghosts. And I didn't want them to think we were leaving because they were black. 100% because they were ghosts. Am I done? Can I get out of here? Can I get out of here? No. Keep going. Yeah, New York is a really lonely place for a libertarian because I was the only libertarian I wanted to hang out with in New York. I don't know if you guys have ever had a conversation with a libertarian. It doesn't feel voluntary. It's just like, whew, it's a tough, you guys are all, I'm guessing libertarians? Yeah, you guys are somewhere on the spectrum of libertarians. Yes, yes, thank you. 100%. New York is a really weird place. I was like a single issue voter when I lived in New York. I don't know if you guys are with me on that. My big thing was playgrounds. That was my issue. Playgrounds. Did you guys know that in New York, you are not allowed to go to a playground as an adult unless you're accompanied by a child under 12 years old? Can you believe that? Those are your tax dollars, and they won't let you play? You're bigger now, you can reach everything, and they're taking that away from you. How weird would it be if I just showed up with a 10-year-old? And they're like, oh, Lou, is that your son? It's like, no, it's not my son. It's my ticket to the monkey bars. After you, my young chaperone. Yeah, I had to get out of here. I had to get out of New York. My wife is pregnant. She's with child. Okay, that was very late. Very late. That was a weird late response to that. Thank you so much. Thank you. I did my best, and it worked. Yeah. We'll see what it looks like. I don't know if you guys picked that up on those mics, but we'll see what it looks like. No, but people ask me all the time. They're like, "Oh, Lou, do you want a boy or do you want a girl?" And look, I have to be honest. Like all I care about is that they're healthy, and no matter what they are, we're gonna raise them as a boy. Yeah. Gender is a social construct. We are socially gonna construct the shit out of that boy. Right there. Just feeding them Joe Rogan pills and stuff. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be dope. Still going. Okay. 30 minutes? Okay, great. Fantastic. I'm so happy. It's I gotta say, man, it's there's something very freeing about being a libertarian and trying to sell that, to the liberty curious, And what's great about it is no matter what happens in an election every 4 years, we're gonna be unhappy. And I think just having that, it's all right. We everybody saw you. Go by. That's fine though. Thank you for being here. With everything going on right now, all the craziness in the world, I gotta admit, I kind of miss Donald Trump, I miss him being our president. It just felt so much easier when he was our president. And part of it is like I really enjoyed how crazy he made a lot of people. Like he made my progressive friends just completely batshit insane. I remember this one time my buddy was like, "Oh man, look at Donald Trump. He's so fat and ugly." And I'm like, "Dude, you guys have the same body type." At least Trump is 72. Like, dude, you're fucking 30 years old. Like, get your shit together, man. You know? Don't act like you were a piece under the Obama administration. I think Trump was actually like a great thing when it came to like just like looks. Everybody like under Obama, right? Like Obama was like a tall, charismatic guy, right? My friend was like a 3. Yeah, he was. Under Trump? I mean, dude's gross. My friend was like a solid 3. I think we were all better looking under Donald Trump, if I'm just being honest there. I think we dodged a real bullet, though, by not having Mike Pence become our president. Because like him or not, Mike Pence is a good-looking man. He is a very good-looking man. Do you remember when he was vice president, like the news used to report like, oh, you know that Mike Pence refuses to eat with women who aren't his wife? It's like, yeah, because those women want to have sex with him. You have no idea what it's like to be Mike Pence. Just standing there with your Bible, just knocking bitches out of the way. Be gone, Jezebel. Okay, we're not recording this, right? So it's just live. Okay, look, if we're being honest, like Mike Pence is such a piece of ass. He could turn me gay and then send me to a camp to turn me straight again. That's how. What do you guys want me to do? Just so you guys know, I wrote a book. It's this book right over here, and I brought way too many copies I can't bring home, so I need to sell as many as I can right now. It's called "That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore," and do you mind if I read just like a short bit from it? If I read it, right? If I read it? Do you mind if I read it? Would you guys mind if this already happened? You know, since we have a libertarian crowd, and I'm sure we have liberty-curious people, you know, there, I want to read something about, you know, Terry and Matt were talking about just the importance of comedy, just bringing people together. You know, it's a way to speak truth to power. It's a way to take on sacred cows. It's a way to also make sure that we're still laughing. You know, basic elements of who we are. And I want to get back to that. And I want to read this chapter 29. It's titled Libtard. So I'm hoping that this will bring us all together. Let's see. It begins with just a question. What upsets libertarians about the Holocaust? That it was carried out by the state and not the free market. Thank you. Thank you. I pointed to the two Jewish people here I know. Thank you for laughing at that. Feel free to redistribute my joke to those in need of it. I am a libertarian comedian, or a comedian who happens to be a libertarian, whichever works for you. I've opened for Ron Paul. I've attended the Porcupine Freedom Festival and spoken at Freedom Fest and other projects in the great state of New Hampshire, Live Free or Die. At one of my gigs, a college kid wearing his father's suit asked me to sign a copy of the U.S. Constitution, and a high schooler had me autograph Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson. Both signatures happened only hours apart. I am so libertarian that I once took part in an event called Laughing for Liberty, the role of comedy in politics for members of Young Americans for Liberty at William Jewell College in Liberty, Missouri. That is some overkill right there. We could really use a better word, another word for liberty. Now, most people don't know what a libertarian is. So I was the first libertarian my wife had ever met, and definitely the first one she ever slept with. What are those kids looking like? Free. One thing about, no, I already did that joke. Gotta document it somewhere. There is a certain liberty in that never-ending unhappiness and struggle with the state, to be natural outsiders to the political process, to always be punching up, if you will, at the powers that be, whichever powers that might be. And we're also weirdos, libertarians. That's why I want us to appropriate the word libtard. Not because I've been called a libtard way more than I've been called a cuck, but because I think it makes more sense to call me a libtard than it does to call you run-of-the-mill liberal or progressive. Because I have been, and still am, a retard for liberty. The night before the 2016 general election, I performed stand-up comedy at Gary Johnson's last campaign stop at the House of Blues in San Diego, California. Were you there? No. Sounds about right. I went up early in the lineup. Unfortunately, I can't stick around, I told the libertarians in attendance, because I have to hop a flight back to New York so I can vote for Gary Johnson. Yeah, they did that. They cheered in the audience. And I said, because we all know if I don't vote for him, there is no way he's gonna win New York. And they laughed like you guys are laughing right now. I finished my set. I had a great time, caught my flight back to New York without a hiccup, and cast my ballot for Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, the Libertarian Party candidates who hadn't even bothered to show up to their campaign event the night before. Their absence wasn't out of the ordinary. This is the LP we're talking about. But Trump winning, that was unthinkable. I had so many sketch ideas that I was ready to welcome our first Madam President with, and Trump went and fucked it all up. I lived in Brooklyn Heights at the time, and I walked into this bar called Custom House on Montague Street. And I took a seat at the bar. The TVs, they were all tuned to CNN and MSNBC, and I started drinking as the election results continued to come in. The place was packed and in a panic. I remember so many men wearing scarves indoors, constricting their necks as the world they knew was falling apart. I drank in the madness of it all and chased it with alcohol. I woke up naked the next morning on my couch. My clothes were scattered all over my apartment. I checked the time on my phone and remembered, oh shit, I missed my flight. That's right. This libtard had flown from San Diego to New York to vote for candidates who had no shot of winning office and who had skipped their own campaign event, only to have to fly back to Los Angeles the following day for another gig. Libtard. It cost me like $700 to buy a new plane ticket, and I rushed over to Newark Liberty International Airport to sweat out my hangover. I was miserable, man. But my sickness was a bodily matter. It would go away eventually. The sickness of my Brooklyn neighbors, though, that was a spiritual matter. Because with Trump in office, there could be no God. Looking back, perhaps the hangover and hit to my pocket were my punishment for the sin of voting third party. Thank you, guys. Matt, Terry.
So Lou, as he said, brought too many copies of his book, so please buy them. I think we also put the link in Amazon in the chat on YouTube, so you're going to skyrocket to number one on the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah, thank God we got a Holocaust joke, because
Yeah.
nope, no happy hours.
Yeah, I figured everything going on with Kanye, it's like, we got to get in on that market. We got to get in on some really
Yeah, it's working so well for him.
Yeah. He's doing really great, guys.
So you wrote a book.
I did.
Yeah. What's it called?
It's called That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, on the death and rebirth of comedy. It's too far.
So this is a deep dive that I didn't realize, but would Morrissey like the title of this book?
You know, I'm a friend of mine. A bunch of people pointed out. So we did an homage to the Smiths' "Meat Is Murder" book album cover, and I'm a huge fan of the Smiths. I'm a huge fan of Morrissey. So if I'm gonna get sued by a guy, that's a great story right there.
That'd be a career topper right there.
100%.
And the book, once again, would go to the top of the New York Times bestseller list.
And I would definitely need it to.
So I recall last time we were talking last time at PorkFest, and I recall I was burdening you with this responsibility to save the world, and you don't want that responsibility. You just want comedy to be funny again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a lot easier just to make comedy be funny again. Burdening the saving of humankind, that's huge, and I think that's one of the issues is definitely during the Trump years, Trump was such an existential threat to everything that basically all of your being, if you were a critic, an enemy of his, if you were part of #resist. How many #resistance fighters do we have here tonight? When you're dealing with that existential threat, you have to aim every weapon you have at this person, So for some people, it's like, well, if you're, a journalist, you're going to, take them down a peg in your articles. If you're an improviser, a comic, well, then all you have to aim are your jokes or your punchlines. And I think that ended up being a real problem. It was sort of like putting a different importance onto comedy than what I think it was supposed to be.
So your subtitle is The Death and Rebirth of Comedy. When did comedy die? I'm curious when you think it died, but my theory is that when Stephen Colbert had all those dancing hypodermic needles, was that the end, or was it already dead?
Well, I think a big part of the death of comedy depends on where you're looking, right? So I think if for a lot of people, if you're looking at things like mainstream late night TV hosts, then you might think it was dying, and that's kind of what happened to me. I told my friends I was writing this book, and they just kept sending me all the worst shit that you could I'm like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this stuff. Like, no, man, you won't believe what they're doing now. It's like, yeah, because that's where you're looking, as opposed to where the interesting stuff was happening, which was online, which was outside of the reach of gatekeepers. And I think in that is where the hope lies, where it's like, look, if you're an independent creator who's able to get your work out there, and it's never been easier to do that, then we're in a really good spot.
Yeah. So we have a similar theory, and I try to be optimistic. Terry yells at me all the time because I've been a cranky, nutty libertarian the last 2 years.
That's like an understatement, dude.
Yeah. I was probably cranky before the lockdowns.
It just got worse.
It got worse.
Far worse.
But I always had this romantic idea that technology and disintermediation, and as Hayek would say, Frederick Hayek, the dead economist, cheers.
I love everybody here in the bar is picking up their glass. I hope you're doing it at home when you're watching this on YouTube.
As Hayek would say, Twitter changes everything. He said that.
I don't think he said that.
It's true.
Wait, how many followers did he have?
If Hayek could tweet, that would be awesome. But this idea that decentralizing knowledge and information and the ability to speak for yourselves, it changes everything. And obviously we're dealing with the backlash of that now. But your view on comedy is that, like, the old days were incredibly centralized, and the new world for guys like you is like, you can break through. You don't need NBC or HBO to approve of what you're doing. You can just do it for yourself.
Yeah, or you get invited to a nondescript bar.
A very cool nondescript bar.
It's a very cool nondescript bar
to tell Holocaust jokes.
Yeah, yeah.
HBO's not going to sign that contract.
No, but if they're willing to. I'm totally open to give up any street cred I have for an HBO special. Well, it's part of the book. I sort of like look back, and it almost feels like I grew up in a completely different timeline than we are today. Like I was fortunate to grow up in the 80s and 90s, where comedy was just everywhere, whether it was stand-up comedy, movies, cable television. I grew up, watching, not only was there SNL, but you had Mad TV and then Living Color. And there was just so much going on. And with it, you have all this, different experimentation. And definitely growing up, like I went to NYU, which isn't, too far from here, and started at the UCB theater as well, where it was just all this. It was just giving opportunity after opportunity to just try something, to just get up there and fail. And I think that was just so crucial to the experience, especially as a young comedian, because when you're young, especially, you're starting out, it's already experimental. You already don't know what you're doing. And to stop that now would be be awful.
And obviously 10 years ago you were just Latino, right, but now you're Latinx. So I feel like that's a totally strategic advantage for you.
Yeah, I've thought about it. It's like I was thinking, like, what is the one like sexual orientation that I could change to where I have to do the least amount of work, and I think Latinx might be the one. Yeah.
So we have a friend, Martha Bueno, down in Texas, or sorry, Florida, and she was running for office, and she made this big splash, no pun intended, because she took a couple photos of herself on the beach wearing a bathing suit that said Latina AF, and then went on to do this whole rant against Latinx, and it was brilliant. We ended up actually doing a video about this, just kind of playing off of it, because she's like, I'm not Latinx, I'm Latina. That you gringos don't understand how our language works.
Well, yeah, I think every time Latinx is pronounced, like an angel gets like an NPR tote bag or something like that. It's like every time you say it, like another dollar goes to like All Things Considered or something like that. So but yeah, no, it really is like a phenomenal word. To me, it always sounds like Latinx sounds like a Latino who's incapable of seducing your wife. Like, no, he used to be able to get it, but now in the work. So.
When did you become Lou instead of Luis?
Yeah, well, during my fiction career.
It's a Latinx transition, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder when did I start doing? My full name is Luis Amate Perez, which sounds like there sounds like a lot of pressure there to like live up to something. So I used to write fiction. I used to use like my full name, and then when I was doing more comedy, it just seemed like a natural fit. More people were calling me Lou, so it's like, oh, it's just easier. And I stopped using like Luis to try to get laid, because I felt like there was just too many. After a while, there was just too many of us here, Normally I'm like very open borders, but when there's just too many Luises trying to get laid in the U.S., they're taking on lays.
Build the wall.
Yeah, build a wall around the singles clubs.
So let's. I was about to say in all seriousness, but I don't mean that. So we're cooking our new project together, and it's sort of based on the Free the People side. Like we think, we've always thought that culture is more important than politics, and storytelling and tapping into people's emotions, one of which hopefully is laughter, is the way that we can connect with people outside of this horrible tribal bubble. And our first project will be with Luis, I can't pronounce your middle name, Perez.
Luis Perez. Yeah, no, well, I just have to say that, for years, like I've been such a huge fan of you guys, and like watching especially the documentaries that they do and the storytelling and the way that it's shot too. I mean, you watch their videos, it's just beautifully shot, so
You hear that back there, guys? Like production team in the back, say hi,
guys-
everybody.
you guys are phenomenal.
Look at him cower, like, oh, okay.
And also there's something too, like I would highly recommend, if anybody out there, if you're not following like Matt and Terry on Instagram, do it, because not only there is the the activism of trying to promote liberty, but also they're living such a, I don't know, just such a, you're really living life to the fullest, that I think comes through, and it comes through so naturally. So it comes through in the creative projects that you're doing. It comes through in your travels. It comes through when you guys are live and speaking in front of a crowd. And I think that's really important too. I think we can sort of like get into these in these little bubbles where we're having these really serious debates about all this minutia about all these German philosophers and all that, as opposed to like
Austrian,
sir. Yeah.
Sorry. The borders were kind of hazy at times. It might have been Germany.
Yeah. Going back and forth. No. It's Austrian. And I think you can forget that the philosophy of liberty is a philosophy that needs to be lived. It's out there. It's in our in our interactions with one another. And the great thing about comedy is that there is that need for an interaction, for us to, whether it's in a bar where I don't know if Eyes Wide Shut is going to happen a little later, or it's online. And
that ticket was another $25. So
that was it. $25. Holy shit. Remove your mask and keep the receipt. Return your mask.
Wow, that's a deep cut right there.
That's real deep.
Does anyone even get that joke?
How about Fidelio? I think that was the.
Okay, yeah, the strange lady at the end there. So.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go after Eyes Wide Shut. I'll be honest, because of all of the places I thought we'd go tonight, that was not it.
We've gone everywhere.
Yeah, I know, and we still haven't. Lord only knows what's going to happen next.
So you're a father, and you have to be optimistic about the future, but you have to also be like scared shitless that things have gotten so weird. How do we?
It sounds like a command. Be both. Right now.
Well, yes, we should be both, but. Yeah. Can you see what is your path forward like? What do you think happens?
So I have two boys. That was very concerted effort. Well, I mean, anyone here who's a parent, you understand that there are natural fears that come just from trying to keep them alive. And so I have one who's 2.5 and one who's 1 in a few months, and we had a scare. Oh my God! It was the beginning of this year, where the youngest had RSV, which I didn't know. During COVID, I didn't know there were other diseases. Like I thought, like everything was just COVID, But RSV is a really scary thing if you're very elderly or you're very young. So it was like right off the bat from this child coming into our life, we're dealing with mortality there, and there was which was a very difficult thing to get through. But the way that I sort of look at it is in the same way that I look at comedy in a way where it's like I don't have these grand ambitions that somehow I'm going to change the world with comedy or a joke. All I can do is hope that I'm able to take perhaps a crowd that isn't laughing and make them laugh. And it's like that small change that I could somehow be a part of. And in a way, with my kids, it's the same thing. I have no control over what the hell is going to be going on out there, but I can be in control, or at least have a bigger presence in what the day to day is and the lessons that I'm giving them. So I think it's like I have to be active in that. So in a way, it's sort of like if you don't have hope, well, you have no choice but to create it in some way.
Well, the other premise in your book is not just like technology is liberating us and it's decentralizing your ability to reach audiences and sell your product, but the other thing is that I call it woke authoritarianism. I don't know what other people call it, but this stuff is so crazy. It feels like it's a gift to comedians and I mentioned Chappelle and even Bill Maher. Like Bill Maher, when I used to go on Bill Maher, he would just take a crap on my head, and his go-to joke was, "You guys are just angry that a black guy is in the White House," and he's come full circle where I agree with 95% of his stuff, because he's looking at his own audience, like the hardcore of the left, saying, "Wow, I don't even recognize this. When did the left abandon free speech? When did the left become so authoritarian that they're going to dictate what you're allowed to say and what you're allowed to think?" So I feel like that's not just an opportunity for libertarians, but it's a beautiful field to harvest for comedians.
Yeah, 100%. And I think nowadays, like, one of the greatest things about the times we're living is, like, if one of the goals of a comedian is to take on sacred cows, well, it's like, well, what are the sacred cows? What aren't you supposed to joke about? And then it's like, okay, well, there we go. That's what we're going. That's the challenge. Now you can try to make fun of that. And what I've also found too, when it comes to free speech, I get along really well with leftists who are for free speech, and it's almost like, wait a minute, we disagree so much, like on the economics, on gun rights and all that, but yet somehow we're still able to sit down and argue with each other, or come together and say, like, yeah, these other people are batshit crazy. Can you believe that? Well, what this is going on? So I think that that's something too. I think there are like these coalitions that are kind of coming together.
It's like a new thing, and I've seen a lot of people explain this better than I can. But it's never really been a left versus right thing. But now it's clearer than ever that it's an authoritarian versus an anti-authoritarian thing. It's, I want to dictate what you're allowed to say in the public square and even in your own home, versus I want to hear what you have to say. And I think that's an interesting thing where people that we would have maybe put on the left are coming over our way, and that is interesting to me.
Yeah, and also, like, I mean, can we just admit that Twitter is fun? Like, hearing people who you really despise speak, it's fun. I mean, it's good.
You have a really interesting idea of fun.
It's fun. It's like, I mean, I remember when my namesake Louis Farrakhan used to be on. One of my least favorite Lou's out there. I gotta say, but it was like, oh my God, here I am. I could actually goof on Louis Farrakhan. Like, this is great. Now you guys.
You mean Luis?
Yeah. Oh, that would be great. Yeah. Luis Farrakhan. Farracono. Farracoño is for them. But I mean, it's like there's so many opportunities here, not only to take part and, well, for one, to know exactly what people are thinking. I think that's really important, and then to converse with them if you want to in a serious light, and then also to mock, to go after and make fun of these people with batshit crazy ideas. I mean, man, if you're not having fun online, I mean, I don't know what to say.
So that's going to bring me back to the conversation that we were having before we got completely off track with talking about Eyes Wide Shut, because we were trying to tee up this really cool project that we're about to start with you, the skit comedy.
Oh.
Yeah, remember that?
I have an idea for a title, as yet to be named. featuring Lou Perez.
There we go. Nice.
Maybe you should just do a poll
We
on
could,
that.
and by the way, like in the comments for those of you guys on YouTube, give me a better title than that because that one sucks. Yeah.
Eyes Wide Hilarious.
Hilarious wide eyes.
Hilarious Wide Eyes. Well, I've been doing sketch comedy for so long, and it's something it's something that I've really enjoyed doing over the years, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with you guys. And like I said before, it's really cool when you're able to when you're a fan of somebody's work, and then it's like, hey, well, why don't we work together? We both like we both like each other's stuff. So I'm looking forward to it for sure.
That was kind of our pitch. Like, hey, you're cool, we're cool. Let's do.
Let's be cooler together.
Let's be cooler together.
There's the title for the show.
And then I was like,
together.
Yeah. Then I was like, look, man, is this sexual? What's going on? Like, we could be really cool together. I'm like, what? Like, again, I don't know what this party's going to turn into.
Yeah. Yeah, the masks are in the back, but it's $25.
25. My book is cheaper, I'll tell you that much. So.
I feel like at some point soon we need to go to Ask Me Anything because it's getting weird up here.
Yeah, it's getting weird.
Yeah, super weird.
All right, so I have been deemed the moderator of Ask Me Anything. We have some questions lined up online, and please, if you're here in person, don't be afraid. Go up to the mic.
Take the mic. Remember, it's a family audience, and the families have since fled the building.
Although we did bill it as uncensored.
Yeah, that's true. Like,
So.
we're allowed to say everything here.
All right, let's see. Sarah says, whatever happened to the Deadly Isms? I love that show.
Okay, does anyone know what this is, the Deadly Isms? Okay, a couple fans here. And we started this series, and the idea was we were going to take the left-right political spectrum, which I never thought made any sense, and flip it on its head and put all of the deadly authoritarian ideologies on the bottom, and we know what those isms are, and sort of work your way up. And I had this really cool conversation with Deirdre McCloskey on my show, thinking about the values that are universal, that might be above that line, that work from like tolerance to cooperation to mutual respect, all the way up to love, and those are really hard values to achieve. But of course, on the bottom, we know all the isms that have devastated people and destroyed them. And so we started making this series, but the next project, and hopefully this is a 2023 thing, we're working with Angel Studios. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but the Harmon brothers and some other innovators, they've done a wildly successful multi-million-dollar project called The Chosen. But the model is, we're not going to wait for big investors to finance a project. We're actually going to crowdsource the funding, and people can be involved in funding the kinds of content they want. So we're kind of hopeful that the isms goes to a whole new level of production values and storytelling, because I think that's what we struggle with is this mythology that the far right, we all know we hate that. Trump is literally Hitler, but when you think about the right-left spectrum, Hitler is on the right, but Pol Pot and Mao, mass murderers equally, are on the left, and that makes no sense to me. So we're wanting to break that mythology and talk about the values that allow people to get along with each other. Yeah.
All right, Brandon asks, what could be done to elevate libertarians to cultural icons?
Well, there's only one on this panel.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic Lou Perez. I think what's probably important is I think a lot of times people are like, hey, what if there was like a libertarian Jon Stewart? And like, wouldn't that be great? It's like, yeah, I guess so. But like Jon Stewart is like Jon Stewart, you know, like Jon Stewart is a really talented comedian, smart, right? And then the stuff that he believes, that's kind of like a part of it, but he's really talented first. And I feel like a lot of times with libertarian stuff, there's a lot of like, you know, like just kind of beating you over the head with the messaging rather than just making really good stuff that people can connect with, and then, you know, finding ways, you know, that I think, you know, like I said earlier, I think, you know, the, you know, libertarianism, the way, it's a way of living, and I think that will come through without, you know, trying to, you know, shoehorn it into most stuff.
Yeah, that was my creative team was browbeating us because they're like, we just want to do things that are funny. And if it's funny, I think those values that I was talking about earlier, they come through because these are human values. Like we don't need to browbeat people into thinking that they shouldn't hurt people or take their stuff. And by the way, there's a cool book by that very name.
You can also buy that on Amazon.
Sorry, I'm crunching into your book sales, and you have a book.
I do. I do.
And what's it called?
That joke isn't funny anymore. Subtitled, Don't Hurt People, Don't Take Their Stuff.
So God help us all. Stephanie is at the mic in-house.
Stephanie's in the house.
I'm representing the back of the bar. We all have a question for you. How close have you come to being canceled?
Oh. How close have you come to being canceled? Are you talking to Lou or the Kibbes?
Ooh, all of you.
Well, actually, the catalyst for the book was at the end of 2020, and there was an academic paper floating around. It hadn't been published yet, and it was called "The Growth of Right-Wing Echo Chambers on YouTube." It's an academic paper, so the idea that you had academics being paid to study YouTube videos was just like astonishing. And a number of friends had sent it my way because at the back of the study, they went through about 1,000 YouTube channels and basically, you know, categorized them as left wing, right, far right, and what happened to be in the far right category was an old comedy channel that I used to produce and be the head writer for. It's called We the Internet TV, and I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm the producer and head writer. This doesn't sound right. I don't wear khaki pants and carry around torches. Far right, what are you talking about? And it turns out I was in pretty good company, too. I was also far right with the Joe Rogan Experience and Brett Weinstein and Sam Harris. And it was like, oh, okay, they seem to have gotten something wrong here. And a friend of mine said, you know, I should write a response or make a video. So I ended up writing a response. He hooked me up with the Wall Street Journal that ran my article. It's called How I Became a, quote, Far-Right Radical. And I expand on it in the book because I reached out to some of the authors. And one in particular got back to me and said, yeah, we got a lot of criticism and we ended up changing the study. Here's the study. And he said, you know, I think this is a good example of science working. And it was like, yeah, you know, I guess so. But the thing is, the pre-published paper that says that my old channel was far right, that's freely available to the public. To read this paper, you have to spend $10 to get behind the paywall. And I don't think anybody gives a shit enough about reading that paper to pay $10. But that was a time where, you know, I was worried because I was recently I was let go from that gig from We the Internet TV, and I was sending out my resume. So the idea that this comes across an HR department, and they're like, I don't know, I don't think we need any more far right content creators at this firm,
So the Kibbes and Free the People, we actually go to great lengths to not be canceled and not to be challenged. We choose our language and our words very carefully. we don't ever compromise our values or our positions, but we just want to make sure that we reach everyone. And we're very proud of the fact that we've never even come close to being canceled. But Matt was blocked by Kathy Griffin once on Twitter.
Okay, I got to tell this story because this is a rabbit hole, but bear with me. So Kathy Griffith was going Griffin. I don't. It doesn't matter. She canceled me. So she was yelling at some New York City official who had the audacity to say that closing schools during lockdowns hurt children. And Kathy, who apparently, I didn't know this was true at the time, but apparently she went through a bout of lung cancer, and she was insisting that locking down school children was the only way to keep herself safe. And I am a cancer survivor. I've been cancer-free for 20 years. Give a shout out for that. I am such a stubborn libertarian asshole that even cancer can't kill me. But the idea that you would tell everybody else to change their lives to accommodate my vulnerabilities was the most offensive thing, particularly children. So I called her a malignant narcissist, and she blocked me.
All right. Gene, you're up.
Yeah. Mises, Rothbard, Hayek, you've done those
That's
three.
That's three chugs right there.
How about Bauerk and Menger? Okay, anyway. You've left those out. Okay. My only question really is that Lou is a master of sketch comedy. I guess the stuff he did and read the internet is still available, and I'm excited that he's going to do. Lou, who are you casting? Obviously, you can't just do it alone. Who are you casting? What are your plans? Are you going to get the Kibbes to kibitz into the? I love the Yiddish puns on your name. He doesn't like me to call him the Kibbe kibbutz, even though it really is a kibbutz. A lot of happy people work for him, but he doesn't mind my calling him an intellectual kibitzer, and that's an honorific. But anyway, are you going to get the Kibbes involved? What are you going to do? What's your plans for the group, for the sketch comedy? I'd like to hear more about it.
Sure. Yes, definitely the Kibbes will be involved. It's a collaboration. So something that I found a while back. I never thought I would be doing political comedy. Like I was doing regular sketch comedy and stand up and improv and that sort of thing. And then when I had the opportunity years back to sort of bring the two together, I thought it was a great opportunity and also a challenge. Like I was saying before, how do you do this stuff without like beating people over the head with the messaging? And something that I found when I was trying to cast stuff is, I would have I did this one sketch. It was called Burglars for Gun Control, and when I was trying to cast it, I reached out to this actress who was great, and I really wanted her to be in it. And she said, I think the script is really good, but I can't tell the point of view about whether you're pro-gun or anti-gun. And I was like, in my head, I was like, really? You can't tell that? And then a part of me was like, oh wow, this is really cool that you can't tell, but maybe this transcends and there's like jokes in there that you like, and that's awesome. And I said, well, just so just cards on the table. I'm a big proponent of gun rights and that sort of thing. And she said, I wish you the best of luck, but I can't be a part of this. And what became clear was, what was even more important than the content was where I stood on the issue. And I thought, man, that kind of sucks that, in order for you to be a part of this, you have to agree with me on this subject matter. And when you're making comedy, when you're making anything, you're already it's already like an uphill battle because so much can go wrong. Things just don't come together. So to have in the back of your head, like, oh, if I write this and I ask so-and-so, are they going to want to do it? Are they going to feel icky about it? Are they going to think I'm a bad person because I wrote this? And then eventually I just decided, well, if they might not be comfortable with it, but I am. So if I can't find somebody, all right, I guess I'm stepping in front and I'm gonna do this role. And after years and years of doing this, I'm really happy with the stable of actors that I've been able to work with over the years. They're all talented and they love the craft and they love playing and also they love getting paid, which is really good. So anybody out there, if you're looking to actually get people to work with you, it definitely helps if you're going to be paying them too.
So you're saying that markets actually work?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
So Gene should get a shout out because he runs the Soho Forum here in New York City.
Yes.
And he should also get a shout out because he quoted, in my count, 5 dead Austrian economists. So not only take a sip, but take a slug.
All right, we are coming up on the hour, and my screen has frozen, so I can't actually scroll through to see all of the other questions. But there was one that popped out that is for you. From the Dude Abides.
Nice.
And he wants to know if you found the Easter egg that he left at our house after the Christmas party last week.
What the fuck? I don't even... Yes, I did.
Well, I think that's the perfect... Do you want to get the last word in? Dear God, please.
No, I think that was such a deep cut into the life of the Kibbes.
Like, that's such a deep joke that I don't even get what it is.
I've met. Have you ever met a couple like that? Like even their inside jokes, they don't laugh at. You're just like, that's not what this was.
That's what happens after 36 years of marriage.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. I was two when we got married. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Fairly legal.
Yeah. By the way, I should point out that that our marriage is a little bit different than some other marriages, and
Really?
Okay. And sometimes there's masks, but that's.
But never during COVID.
But our anniversary is October 25th, and in the days leading up to October 25th, I wait anxiously to discover whether or not Terry has decided to renew my contract.
It's year by year.
Because we believe in markets, and she's.
I might have a better offer.
The competition apparently is brutal, so it's a thing.
All right, I want to thank you all for coming, both here in person and joining us online. I am very excited to do this again. We're going to bring this back, I think, every month. Let us know if you'd like this. If you don't ever want us back in your fine city, we can totally understand that, too. All right, there it is. Kibbe, last word?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.